Watcher.
Yeah.
This clock stopped at 3:07, and so did the one in the hallway.
That's weird. Maybe you got knocked around on the move.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 haunted houses in movies.
If I can just get the key to 1408, I can get out of your hair.
Oh, we were thinking of upgrading you to a penthouse suite.
1408, please.
For this list, we'll be looking at the scariest residences in movie history, whether it be houses, manors, cabins, or hotels. If you're a fan of the horror genre, beware of spooky spoilers ahead. Would you stay the night at any of these places? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20. The Windward House, The Uninvited. One of the most popular movies of 1944 is The Uninvited. It follows brother and sister Rick and Pamela Fitzgerald while they're vacationing in the southwest of England.
That's not because there are more ghosts here than in other places, mind you. It's just that people who live hereabouts are strangely aware of them.
The siblings discover the luxurious Windward House and, being enticed by its weirdly low price, decide to buy it on a whim. As we horror experts know, there's a reason why it's so cheap. Rick and Pamela soon find out for themselves as they begin to experience paranormal activity and hear the eerie noise of a crying woman. The house is beautiful and has a killer view, forgive the pun. But it also plays a part in a tragic past involving a scandalous affair and a fatally steep cliff.
I'm going down and search the place.
Rick, I've searched. There's never anything there.
Never? Do you mean you've heard it before?
Yes.
Number 19. The Dolphin Hotel, 1408. This film is adapted from Stephen King's short story of the same name. It concerns author Mike Enslin, a skeptic who ironically writes books about the supernatural.
All told, there have been 56 deaths in 1408.
56.
He is mysteriously invited to a New York hotel called the Dolphin and is drawn to room 1408 in particular, probably because he's told not to enter it. It's in that room that Mike goes from skeptic to true believer. This room likes to mess with its occupants, and it scares them not with physical ghosts, although those are here too, but with psychological torment. This is a hotel room with malice and a sick sense of humor.
Mike, they're in 1408. The room's empty.
Number 18. The Zorba House, 13 Ghosts. Produced and directed by William Castle, 13 Ghosts is a paranormal classic about the Zorba Mansion.
Dr. Zorba collected ghosts from all over the world. You inherit them, too. Oh, come on.
Cyrus Zorba moves into his dead uncle's large house, which might be quite the exciting event given its grandiosity, if not for the fact that it's inhabited by a dozen ghosts. They're all quite grotesque in nature, featuring the likes of a homicidal chef, an executioner with a grisly possession, and a headless lion tamer. If that wasn't scary enough, the house also comes with a threatening promise that someone will die inside its walls and become its 13th ghost. How's that for a welcome party?
I wish you and your family were staying somewhere else. This place gives me the creeps.
Number 17. The Orphanage. The Orphanage. An excellent Spanish film by director J.A. Bayona, The Orphanage follows a woman named Laura Rodriguez, who returns to her abandoned childhood orphanage in hopes of restoring it.
Yo me crié aquí. Esto era un pequeño orfanato. Siempre quise volver, así que se nos ocurrió la idea de la residencia.
¿Residencia?
Naturally, things don't go as smoothly as Laura may have hoped. Orphanages already aren't as joyful as you'd hope, but if the building hasn't been occupied for years, yeah, we've got chills already. Laura's young son Simone begins speaking about an invisible friend named Tomas, who wears a sack over his face. Things only get worse and scarier from there, as Laura learns about the institution's deeply tragic and disturbing past. The children are still there, and they wish to be heard.
Pero ahí estaban los niños.
O sea que usted vio a los niños. Eso es así.
Así es.
Nos está diciendo que en esta casa hay fantasmas.
Number 16. Whipstaff Manor, Casper. While a comedy primarily aimed at families, Casper was significantly darker than its cartoon counterpart.
It got late. It got dark. Got cold. And I got sick. My dad got sad.
It takes place primarily within Whipstaff Manor, a large estate inhabited by a young ghost named Casper and his 3 dead uncles. This film takes a different approach to the haunted house genre, following most of its tropes while also offering a lighter tone. Casper is known as the friendly ghost after all. Whipstaff Manor is large, gorgeous, and provided the ghosts take a liking to us, it's somewhere we wouldn't mind resting our heads for a night.
Who you gonna call? Someone else.
Number 2. The Manor. The Others. This movie borrows from traditional Gothic tales while also adding its own fresh spin, resulting in a horror classic that helped redefine a centuries-old genre.
I think that sometimes the world of the dead gets mixed up with the world of the living.
Nicole Kidman plays Grace Stewart, a widow who lives in a haunted country place with her 2 children. It plays out much like an old-timey Gothic tale, with the eerie manor, creepy noises, ghost sightings, and tragic backstory. Speaking of the manor, it's gigantic, all complete with surrounding forest, a front yard pool, and of course, paranormal activity. If you're looking for a psychological horror with a spectacular twist, The Others is right up your alley.
The intruders are leaving, but others will come. Now sometimes we'll sense them, other times we won't.
Number 14. Monster House. Monster House. A very fun animation co-written by Dan Harmon, Monster House provides ghostly fun for the whole family.
Fascinating, isn't it? Just sits there waiting, mocking us with its houseness.
Honestly, we'd been waiting for a story where the antagonists aren't the spirits in the haunted house, but rather the haunted house itself. Here's a narrative that concerns a sentient home that attempts to eat children as they come near. Naturally, it remains inactive whenever parents and adults are watching, so the kids are left to their own devices. Like many unearthly dwellings, the monster house has a tragic past, one involving the unfortunate combination of an axe and a cement mixer. This movie crafts a wonderfully unique aesthetic that will thrill children and adults alike.
If those are the teeth, and that's the tongue, then that must be the uvula. Oh, so it's a girl house.
Number 13. Allerdale Hall. Crimson Peak. While it's almost traditional to a fault, this gothic romance contains many stellar and imaginative visuals that can only come from the creative mind of Guillermo del Toro.
My child, when the time comes, beware of Crimson Peak.
A good chunk of the action takes place in Allerdale Hall, a massive estate in northwest England. The house makes a constant groaning noise, almost as if it's in a perpetual state of pain. It's also sinking into the foundational red clay, so Allerdale Hall appears as though it's bleeding, thus the nickname Crimson Peak. Despite its gorgeous name and beautiful architecture, Crimson Peak is by no means a welcoming place.
There's no other house for miles and the town's half a day's walk away.
Number 12. The Maitland House. Beetlejuice. A haunted house classic, Beetlejuice takes place inside the Maitland's residence.
What are your qualifications?
Well, I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that.
The beautiful country home is owned by Barbara and Adam Maitland, a young married couple who die in a car accident at the beginning of the film. Following the deaths, the house is sold to the Dietz family, but the ghostly Maitlands aren't ready to let it go. To scare away the Dietzes, they befriend a malicious and rather annoying entity named Beetlejuice. The whole thing has a very Tim Burton flair to it, with plenty of dark visuals and imaginative situations. The Maitland house wouldn't be a fun place to live, but it's certainly a lot of fun to watch.
Are you a ghost too?
I'm the ghost with the most, babe.
Number 11. Eel Marsh House. The Woman in Black. A very traditional haunted house movie, The Woman in Black stars Daniel Radcliffe fresh off the Harry Potter franchise.
You don't believe me, do you?
I believe even the most rational mind can play tricks in the dark.
He plays Arthur Kipps, a widowed lawyer who is sent to the abandoned Eel Marsh house to retrieve financial records. Of course, he gets in far over his head and starts unearthing the mystery behind the old manor. It's your traditional Gothic mansion filled with spiderwebs and dark, empty hallways. The estate is also inhabited by the titular Woman in Black, who terrorizes poor Arthur throughout. This is good, old-fashioned haunted house fun, and Eel Marsh House is a fascinating place to spend 90 minutes.
You saw that? You saw that woman at the house.
Number 10. Belasco House, The Legend of Hell House. Despite the title, this movie does not take place within Hell House. Rather, the subject is the Belasco House, which was owned by a sadistic millionaire named Emmerich Belasco.
Isn't it just another so-called haunted house?
It's the Mount Everest of haunted houses.
He was said to be a killer, and the house reportedly haunted by his victims. Various people are hired to stay inside the home, including 2 mediums and a physicist working to explore the bridge between life and death. It's not only extremely dangerous, but rather physically imposing as well. The Gothic Revival mansion Wykehurst Place was used for the exterior shots and provides the film with a suitably creepy setting. It may not be called Hell House, but it's certainly a fitting nickname.
The Lord certainly does move in mysterious ways.
So does this house.
Number 9. The Saeki House, Ju-On, The Grudge. One of the most popular Japanese horror films of all time, Ju-On, The Grudge, is an undeniable classic of the haunted house genre.
担当の人とかは
それがさ、全然連絡取れなくてさ、鍵持ち出したまま事務所にも顔出さないし、俺も困っちゃってんだよね。
The dwelling in question is situated in Tokyo and is disturbed by the Saeki family. A social worker named Rika is assigned to the house and its sole elderly inhabitant. It's there that she encounters the now iconic spirits and helps uncover their violent past. The house itself isn't particularly scary, but those who live there certainly are. Kayako's ghost is especially horrifying, and many of her scenes are unforgettable. The staircase sequence alone is scarier than many horror movies. Number 8. The Carmichael Mansion, The Changeling. A classic Canadian film, The Changeling is arguably one of the best haunted house movies of all time.
That house is not fit to live in. No one's been able to live in it. It doesn't want people.
Legendary actor George C. Scott stars as John Russell, a composer who loses both his wife and daughter in a horrible accident. He moved to Seattle to deal with his grief and rents a long-abandoned mansion from a local historic society. John soon learns why the gorgeous house has been sitting empty for so long, and he comes into contact with the vengeful spirit of a young boy named Joseph Carmichael. The home may be beautiful, but it becomes increasingly obvious that it was the site of some brutal atrocities that have left it with a threatening paranormal aura.
Joseph, did you die in this house?
Number 7. Hill House, The Haunting. Widely regarded as one of the best horror movies ever made, The Haunting is an exercise in supernatural scares and tantalizing ambiguity.
No one will come any nearer than that.
I know.
In the night. In the dark.
The story was adapted from Shirley Jackson's acclaimed novel The Haunting of Hill House and concerns a small group of people holed up inside the titular mansion. The abode has it all, including rattling doorknobs, odd noises, and ghoulish hands that famously grasp the protagonists. But the most intriguing part of the movie has to be its ambiguity. The manor may not be haunted at all. It may all be in the head of lead character Eleanor Lance. One thing's for sure, the differing interpretations have made Hill House an iconic fictional mansion.
Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone.
Number 6. The Perrin Farmhouse, The Conjuring. This movie was enormously successful and led to an entire fictional universe encompassing different time periods, fictional demons, and eerie dolls. But the original Conjuring is nothing if not an effective, well-told ghost story.
And it doesn't matter where you go, this dark entity has latched itself to your family, and it's feeding off you.
It follows the Perrin family who move into an old and isolated farmhouse in Rhode Island. They quickly begin experiencing eerie phenomena before the story descends into all-out madness involving possession and an alleged witch named Bathsheba. This estate has it all. Not only does it creep out the inhabitants, but it's also extraordinarily damaging to their physical and mental health. In short, it's one of the scariest haunted houses put to film.
Look, I gotta tell you, you have a lot of spirits in here. But this is the one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful.
Number 5. The Freeling House, Poltergeist. Co-written by Steven Spielberg and directed by Tobe Hooper, Poltergeist follows the trials and tribulations of the unfortunate Freeling family.
They're here.
Their house in Cuesta Verde, California is attacked by malevolent poltergeist entities who seemingly enter through the television. Following their invasion, the family encounters some of the most famous scares in movie history. Sentient tree branches shatter windows, clown dolls come alive and attack, people experience highly disturbing and grotesque visions, and of course, young Carol Ann is abducted and sent to another dimension that opens inside a bedroom closet. It doesn't get much more freaky than this.
A terrible presence is in there with her. So much rage, so much betrayal.
Number 4. The House on Haunted Hill. House on Haunted Hill. Many of these movies share a very similar premise. This one bears a striking resemblance to both The Haunting and The Legend of Hell House, as it concerns a small group of people being invited to stay inside a supposedly ghostly manor.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
Those who can survive the night will earn a handsome cash reward. However, this is more than a simple haunted house movie, as its story twists and turns with various clever machinations. Like The Haunting, the manor's status as a haunted house is up for debate and interpretation. Maybe it was an elaborate scheme, or maybe there is something truly supernatural occurring within its walls.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
Number 3. The Amityville House. The Amityville Horror. This is a historic film, and it contains one of the most iconic haunted houses in movie history.
Now, I was in the house and I heard the voices too, and I also felt a presence in the house. I'm telling you, there was a presence in that house.
It's based on a supposedly true story involving the Lutz family, but their tale has long been disputed. Either way, the fictional family certainly moves to Amityville, New York, into a home that was the recent site of a mass homicide. They experience several paranormal phenomena, like booming voices, bleeding walls, and a ghostly girl named Jody, who sometimes appears as a giant red-eyed pig. Heck, there's even a passage to hell in the basement. Real or not, it certainly makes for one heck of a story, and it made the Amityville house one of the most famous in America.
Dude, a guy kills his whole family? Doesn't that bother you?
Well, yeah, sure, but houses don't have memories.
Number 2. Bly Manor. The Innocents. Henry James's The Turn of the Screw is one of the most renowned horror novellas in literature, and The Innocents is arguably its greatest adaptation.
Enter, my lord. Come from your prison. Come from your grave. For the moon is arisen.
Similarly, the very name of Bly Manor is synonymous with haunted houses, even if the place might not be haunted at all. It's home to apparitions that seemingly possess children, not to mention creepy voices that emanate through the empty halls. Much scholarly material has been written about Bly Manor and its supposed hauntings. Some argue that the paranormal activity is not real, but imagined by protagonist Miss Giddens. The wildly different interpretations have helped keep the story fresh, and this movie does a fine job of towing the line.
Miss, there's things I've seen I'm ashamed to say.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Overlook Hotel. The Shining. Struggling writer Jack Torrance is hired to care for the Overlook Hotel as it closes for the winter season.
I'm a writer. Teaching's been more or less a way of making ends meet.
Well, this ought to be quite a change for you.
Well, I'm looking for a change.
The rest is cinematic history. Left all alone in the unearthly hotel with his wife and child, Jack slowly descends into madness, and it all culminates in one of the most famous climaxes in movie history. Stanley Kubrick takes already solid source material and works his magic, crafting one of film history's most ambiguous, unsettling, and outright bizarre settings. The hotel has a very distinctive character, and it's filled with memorable ghosts and terrifying visions. Countless articles can be written about this movie's themes, but at the end of the day, it's also just a spooky story about a very haunted hotel.
But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.